slave.
It's been a terrible week for Boeing. After a door blew off an Alaska Airlines flight mid-air last week, the airline grounded all of its Boeing 737 MAX 9s.
Guys, welcome to Bachelor. My name is Joker with a face for radio and a voice for print. My videos that are up and coming over the next probably year at this rate is going to be a lot about women complaining about their own decisions and their own actions. I find that finding the crazy dating stuff is getting more difficult, and that's okay. I mean, let's face it. At this point, the market's kind of oversaturated with everything when it comes to news. But one thing that's incredibly interesting is women are now, yes, they're still going on in their craziness about dating and their expectations of men, but it's slowing down because women are discovering the real world is hard. And as things get more and more difficult, and as the economies get tougher, and as dating gets tougher, and marriage gets tougher, they're finding that they're not doing so well. And yes, that is going to be probably a running theme for my up-and-coming stuff, my up-and-coming content. Guys are still relatively doing okay in comparison. Or if they're not, they're at least suffering in silence to the point that it's not making it on mainstream news. And this is also a good thing. I mean, it's not a good thing that men are suffering in silence. I don't mean that. If you're struggling, you should definitely be talking to a friend or getting some support somewhere. But where women complaining on the internet all the time, it's showing that their own ideas and philosophies and their boss beatitudes are failing, and they're bragging about it, and because they can't help it, because they need to virtue signal. So we're going to get into this young gal who's discovered that, hey, you know what? Maybe having too much compassion and not enough order in the world is going to give you a hard time. And I think a lot of people are going to find that out the very hard way. Before I get to the main video here, just very quickly, I looked this up because there were a couple of people having a discussion online today that I found, and they were talking about yin and yang and how you need balance in all things. And from Britannica, they say yin is the symbol of earth, femaleness, darkness. How ironic that female is also paired with darkness. But passivity and absorption. Yang is conceived as heaven, maleness, oh yeah, light, activity, and penetration. And the discussion the people were having, and one of them, I believe, was either Japanese or Chinese. He was discussing that yin is basically the dark, is compassion, where yang, or light, is order. And you need an equal balance of compassion and order at the same time. And if you don't have those balances, nature, humanity, people, the world gets out of balance. I found this to be very interesting because if you think about compassion, you can be very compassionate to the point where you have chaos. And what do I mean by this? If you look at today in San Francisco, in London, probably some major cities in Germany and other countries, you have so much compassion that you're letting criminals free to go out and harm people again. But you don't want to hurt the criminals' feelings. You have so much compassion that you're letting monetary policy fall out the window and bankrupting companies so you can keep an open border and let people come in where the world is so much better. It goes on and on and on. But that's compassion, and it leads to chaos because there's no order in the world. Now, if you have too much order, you can see what happens, say, in the German area in the 1940s. It is all order. It is all following orders. It is all without any critical thinking or compassion for your fellow man. And you get the opposite, which is also very bad times. What I find interesting is you will never end up in a situation like was in Germany with that kind of order through compassion, because you can't have chaos lead to order. Now, out of the chaos can come order, but you can't use chaos to make order. And that's what many of these feminists and these women's right advocates and the left is trying to do today. So the chaos will never turn into order, but they may use it to try to control your life and then turn it into order. The problem is you can't have that order and compassion at the same time. Why is this important? Because, dude, chill. Because these women are very compassionate. And they're not using any order. They're not using any critical thinking. They're not using their brains to fix anything. They're using their hearts, and they're using their compassion. And when you vote that way, and when you go through life that way, you're going to find yourself actually quite miserable, where at least men, for the most part, are much more order defined. Yes, they do have compassion. Yes, they do care. But it's always done to make a good society operate well, which is order. I bring this up for a couple things. Number one, this video that we're going to get into. But number two, this is the new, I think it's St. Paul. I think this is St. Paul, Minnesota. This is their new city council. If you wonder why I keep clicking over here, because apparently this is the new city council, and during the event, this is the women's parking lot out there where they had parked. Anyway, and you can see they're all women, they're all young, and they're making sure to wear something that is very, I don't know, apropos to their backgrounds. So now you have a bunch of women that are running everything and in St. Paul. Now, I want you to thumbnail and make note that St. Paul is doing this, because you're going to have to watch the news and pay attention to see how St. Paul operates in the next few years to come. Because this is all yin, this is all darkness, this is all compassion, and there is no order. Or if they try to impose order, it will be by flipping over to control in a very quick way. And they say they're going to do things for compassion, and that it'll be fine until everything goes south. And then they're going to try to switch over to being in control and take control of things, and it's not going to work. So be very mindful of St. Paul, Minnesota. They actually, and again, I'm getting to the main video here in just a moment, but this is CBS Evening News. St. Paul, Minnesota witnessed a historic moment when it welcomed its new city council composed entirely of women. Among the 7 council members, 6 are women of color, and all are under the age of 40. That is the bragging. That is the talking point. And that is the whole point, is that it's not about their backgrounds. It's not about what they've accomplished. It's not about what they've done to better society. It's about the color of their skin and the fact that they're female. Now, many may turn right around and say, yeah, but what about this city that has all white guys running the show? Were they hired because they were just white guys, or were they hired because they knew what they were doing? They had a good track record of whatever they were doing previously. They had good policies, and they were the right choice. See, there's the difference between the two. I'm going to just play this blurb very quickly, and then we'll get on to the main content.
I think you'll like this story. History was made in Minnesota's capital city of St. Paul today, or should we say herstory was made. St. Paul's new city council was sworn in this afternoon, made up entirely of women. And get this, 6 of the 7 council members are women of color, and they are all under the age of 40. 4 of them are new members and say that affordable housing and access to child care are some of their top priorities. Congratulations to them and the people of St. Paul. I am betting that they get some stuff done. Yeah. I think you'll like this story.
I bet they're going to get some stuff done too. Well, this is going to be just a great opportunity to see how things run because of this. But they're worried about childcare, and they're worried about, I don't know, equal access to all the other crap. It's going to be housing, and good luck to you ladies. They're going to go bankrupt. They always claim that they want equal. We just want to be equal. We just want representation. But the minute that they get 100% power, it's, look how diverse we are. We're a bunch of women, but with a bunch of different backgrounds and skin colors. That's their diversity. Not diversity of thought, not diversity of ideas, not diversity of how to accomplish a task. It's all, well, we're women and we've got color. Good luck to you. I'm looking forward to see how that goes. All right, this video is going absolutely viral. And a lot of people are agreeing with this young lady. But I think anybody that's agreeing with her has either come from a very spoiled background, or they're agreeing that maybe it's tougher today than it used to be, but you still have to make sacrifices. You've always had to make sacrifices. This young lady goes on an epic rant on how she can't afford anything. Well, when you tell the government, because of compassion, you want all the lovely people south of our border to come across to have a better life, and also give them cell phones, and also give them EBT or food cards, and also let them migrate throughout our country, and also let them vote for all the free things, and also, you know, put them up in a school gym. There's a school, and I forget which city it's in. There's a school where now 2,000 immigrants or illegal immigrants are being housed inside this school, and so the students have to learn from home. They can't even go to their own school. There's hotels that are filled with them. There's airline terminals that are filled with these people, and it's from compassion. They want them to have a better life here than those poor, awful countries that they came from, such as Russia and China and apparently Australia, India. They're letting the borders wide open. You've got to pay for those people. So taxes go up. Inflation goes up. Well, taxes go up. And then the government says we're going to print all this money to give all this money to people. Then inflation skyrockets. And now your check doesn't go as far as it used to. And she's finding that out the hard way. But ultimately, it's her compassion and women's compassion, but her compassion and those like her wanting to give all the things for free that is ultimately going to make herself suffer.
I cannot stand how the news has been dogging Gen Z and calling them lazy for not wanting to work a 9-to-5 for the rest of their lives. Let me put it in perspective for everybody who's a little confused here, okay? I work 5 days out of the week, 40 hours a week, okay? I do not make enough to live on my own. I would not make enough to pay rent, water, electric, and eat.
Okay, let me put a pin in that. I was in the military. That was a government job. As an 18 to 20-year-old, I lived in the government barracks. I bought a new car whose payment was $325. It was a Honda Civic. It had no air conditioning, manual windows, manual locks, no radio. I ordered it, as a matter of fact, and waited 6 weeks for it to come for a radio without a radio, because they wanted to charge something like $1,000 for a radio. And then if you got the air conditioner and window package, it was like $1,500. So instead of being the, I don't know, $13,000 or $14,000 car that I got, yes, Honda Civics were that cheap back in the day, instead, it was going to be, I don't know, 16 or 17 grand, and the payments would have gone up $100, and I couldn't afford that. Then when I got out of the military, I had to, now, and when I was in the military, I also worked a part-time job as a security guard. And then when I got out of the military, I had 2 jobs. And then once I got into my main job, I had 2 jobs. And I've always had 2 jobs. Because one job, I've almost, and I'm just saying me, I know many of you guys are like this, I've almost worked 60 or 70 hours a week for a decade or 2 until I really made it in my 40s into an excellent career. Why do I say this? Because she acts like we had it easy. She acts like, oh, well, you've had it so easy, your life. Well, we Gen Z have to struggle. We struggled too. I did not have my own apartment until I was probably close to 30, maybe 28. I didn't have my own apartment. I always had a roommate. And then when I was around 30 is when my ex-wife and I were dating and decided to move in together and get married. So even then, technically, I had a roommate. And then after we got divorced, that's the first time I didn't have a roommate at the tender age of, 35. She acts like, oh, well, I can't afford my own place. None of us could. And I'm going back, 20, 25 years ago? Even now, this apartment that I'm paying for now is a big chunk of change. Only, thankfully, have I had enough time to save and stash away money and invest it relatively well. Am I able to afford this place on my own? That's the only reason why. But see, she has to take her anger out at somebody. And instead of calling out the government, instead of calling out her own bad decisions, she calls out the generations before her. What's interesting is she could solve this instantly. And this is where women and men differ. She can solve it instantly. Men can't. She could go meet a guy. She could meet a guy that's relatively successful. She could be a good girlfriend. She could learn how to make a sandwich. She could cook. She could keep a clean apartment. She could say, I want to be a stay-at-home mom. And boom, just like that, never have to work another day in your life. Now, maybe she meets a guy that's not super, super successful. But if you're a good wife and he's a good husband and you guys now can do a one-bedroom apartment with your two incomes, well, now you're splitting the rent between two people that love each other and that are together and that have started a family. But she doesn't even understand the concept of having a roommate. Why? Because I don't want to make that sacrifice. I don't want to make a sacrifice for a roommate because I don't want a roommate. Lots of times I didn't want a roommate either. And as a matter of fact, lots of times I had roommates I didn't like very much. And they probably didn't like me. But when you have to pay rent and you can't afford things, same as it was 25 or 30 years ago, well, you got to make sacrifices.
All by myself. I would not be capable of doing that. 20 years ago when you were getting started, you could live on your own.
No. Not when, what's she, 22, 23, working at Walmart? When I was in the military, I couldn't live alone. When I was in the military and I worked a part-time job as security, I couldn't work or live alone. And when I got out of the military, I think one of my jobs, I worked at an ice cream shop making sundaes and delivering pizzas at a second job. And my main job was in electronic sales, and I got paid a very base salary plus commission. With those three jobs, I still couldn't live on my own without a roommate. And that was almost, well, yeah, like 30 years ago now. The difference is, again, I worked multiple jobs. I had roommates. And again, I'm saying a lot of me, but you guys do this too. We didn't spend on the newest iPhone and the makeup and the fake lashes and probably a designer haircut and the fake nails and all that stuff. Her car is certainly better than mine, and I can tell you that already because her headliner, the fabric that covers the inside of her roof, is all in one piece and it's clean. It's a lot better than I managed to keep my ratty old car by the time it was 5 or 6 years old from delivering pizzas and all the craziness that I used to get up to.
20 years ago when you first started, you were able to do everything that I am now struggling to do. Let me add another perspective here. You've been working for 20 years. You have 20 years of working experience behind your belt. You have 20 years of experience in a career that has allowed you to gain raises, to get more money, to profit you in an economy that you created.
See, and it's us that created this economy. This is the craziness and the entitlement that drives me crazy. Joe the plumber out there, did you make this economy? Bob the builder, did you make this economy? No. Who makes the economy? The governments, the corporations. The same people that she's probably like, oh, I'm so stunning and brave. I love these corporations donating all this money to Bravo Lima Mike. Oh, this government giving about all these entitlements and helping us with these free stimmy checks and keeping the southern border open so everybody can come over here. That's who created this economy. Not your local older dude, Gen Xer or boomer, that it's just working 9 to 5. It's funny how the left used to be anti-government, and now they're just suckling at the teat of the government like, oh, so stunning and brave. I love our government. It's you, fellow capitalists, that came before us that did this. We're products of the machine just like she is. Yes, as you get older and you have ways to make a little bit more money, but why are Gen Xers, why are boomers, well, maybe not boomers, but why are Gen Xers doing so well? Because if you talk to a lot of them, they bust their nuts at work. They work really hard and work the extra hours because we weren't given any freebies. We had to go, let me tell you, the struggle was real. We had to go out and do some crazy, crazy stuff. So, I I don't feel anything for this young lady saying what she's saying. It just doesn't fly with me.
You can sit here and you can call Gen Z lazy all you want, but I've been working my tail end off just to barely make it by. And respectfully, I don't want to do that for the rest of my life. I don't want to work my tail end off, wasting all of my life working just to barely be able to pay my bills.
You know what could solve that? Wasting your life working. That's how a lot of men feel. A lot of men feel, I work a lot. I waste my life. All for what? A wife that doesn't love me, the kids she'll eventually take away from me and she'll divorce me for. Why am I working so hard for this? The deal used to be you'd have a loving, appreciative, caring wife. And yes, you would bust your nuts at work to bring home a good paycheck. And then you'd get the love and the appreciation of a family that loved you. And men said, this is a good deal. But not today. Now today, we're told we're problematic, that the problems of the world are our fault and the patriarchy and everything else. And guys say, you know what? There's no reward for me anymore. I'm just going to look out for myself. And so men now look out for themselves. The thing is, that leaves this woman to look out for herself. She doesn't like that because it's hard. You have to make sacrifices. You might have to have a roommate. You might have to work a couple of jobs to get by until you get that accomplishment and you get that work practice and you get that managerial experience or whatever to move up in the ranks. Or if you'd gotten a degree, a worthwhile degree, you'd be fine. If you'd maybe entered the trades, you'd be fine. But no one was expected to be able to raise a family of 4 on McDonald's salary. But because they're doing that, well, now automation's coming in. Now mass layoffs are coming in. And as a matter of fact, I'll put a little addendum on the end of this. Mass layoffs are coming in 2024. Why? Because the inflation, because we've printed ourselves into the dirt, because now we need to raise interest rates. There's nothing in life is free. But they don't see that. So now she's blaming the wrong people for it.
And that is what you created, not Gen Z. We're just here getting started. You've been doing it for the last 20 years. You tell me how it got ruined. We can sit here and we can call
the government. Always, always the government.
Gen Z lazy all you want, but you let the economy turn into what it did. You let it all run to hell.
See, she and women like her, they vote with the compassion. They don't want order. They want chaos. They want men and women's sports. They want, 7 million people from other countries just coming in and looking for handouts. And yeah, a lot of them want to work. Where do they get those jobs? It's either under the table or they're taking jobs from Americans. And what happens when they come in? Well, they're going to vote for the people that'll give them all the free things. And then the government has to print more money, and inflation goes up, and things get more expensive. And companies look to cut costs, so they lay people off. And they put in automation, like robots, and they put in AI. And she will never understand that it's not the people that are doing this. It's not boomers or Gen Xers. I mean, even my father was a boomer. My mom's a boomer. What did they do? They worked. They went to work. They bought a house. They bought cars. They raised a family. How does that control what happens? How do they control the stock market? How do they control the government? How do they control inflation? But that's who she points her fingers at. Why? Because anything else would be accountability for who she's voted for. Anything else would be accountability for keeping everything open and allowing all this craziness to happen and then having the government hand out checks. Any accountability is zero. So we have to point the fingers to everybody else. That's literally what she's doing.
And now it's Gen Z's fault because we don't want to work to fix your mistakes.
It's infuriating. And this will be the same one that votes for social programs and government giving out more and more free things and more entitlements. And over time, pretty soon, you'll have everything given to you. It'll be shoddy quality. It'll be horrible. It likely won't be what you want. It'll be in disrepair, and you'll be paying a 70% tax rate, so you'll need all those free things given to you. And whatever little scraps you have left over, hopefully you can buy some crusts of bread and meat with it. That's how all this stuff starts. We need to wipe it all away, but no accountability. So we've got chaos and no order. Chaos in the government, chaos at the border, chaos with crime, chaos with foreign interventions, and chaos with the money printers. And until there's some order brought into things, things will collapse. It's just going to be what order is going to replace it. It's not going to be this order. It's not going to be the LDHD TV, criminals can be set free, do whatever. That's not order. That won't be the long-term plan. It can't be. The question is, what are they going to replace it with? And what kind of order is it going to be? I'm going to just tap this on the end of this. Massive layoffs are coming in 2024, according to Newsweek. They called out some CFOs and CEOs and said, hey, what are the plans? I called this. Many of you called this. A lot of financial experts called this. You can't print forever. You can't lock people down. And then watch the stock market continue to grow. How are we at one of the longest bull runs in history? It's because it's not really growing. I mean, yes, it goes up in dollars. It goes up 20% or 30% over the last year or two, and people are like, wow, it's going crazy. But inflation has gone up that much. Cost of things have gone up that much. So profits are going up as well. But if $100 today was worth $70 yesterday, then a $100 stock price today is worth $70 of a stock price yesterday. So even though the numbers are going up, it doesn't mean that it's making any money, because if you look at inflation adjusted stock market, not doing so great. We're about breaking even. Newsweek says mass layoffs are in store for 2024, and it might end up affecting nearly half of companies, according to a new poll. Oh, while I think of this, let me just finish on this chick. Let me just finish on Miss Thing here. If she had learned how to get married, how to be a stay-at-home mom, or even a mom working part-time, or found a good husband, she's not a troll. She could probably find a decent-looking dude. You'd at least have two people with the same long-term mindset, the same goals, maybe the same savings account, the same bank account. You could have gone, you could learn to be a good wife, be complimentary, not be a witch, make sandwiches, take care of the family. And she wouldn't feel like it's all by herself. And then you'd have a roommate that at least you loved and you'd probably sleep with. But instead, everything pushes people to be strong and independent and on their own. And people are going to find out that's really hard, and it kind of sucks. She's not going to find out until it's too late. Mass layoffs 2024, and it might end up affecting nearly half of companies. The latest information from a Resume Builder survey based on responses from more than 900 companies this month. Resume Builder is a professional platform that allows users to create resumes in just a few steps. In the survey, nearly 4 in 10 companies said they're likely to have layoffs in 2024, prompting increasing fears of a recession around the corner. More than half of companies said they plan to implement a hiring freeze. When asked why the companies were engaging in the layoffs, half said the anticipation of a recession was a reason. Meanwhile, a little less, 4 in 10, said they're going to lay off employees and replace workers with artificial intelligence. The news comes as Google is reportedly gearing to lay off 30,000 employees in its ad sales unit in favor of AI tech. In 2023, 65% of business leaders said their companies already had layoffs, with 25% saying they laid off 30% or more of the workforce. Who will be laid off first? With a slight division in mid-size and large companies compared to small companies, 42% of mid-size and 39% of large companies indicated layoffs were coming. Only 28% of small company business leaders said the same. Industry-wise, construction and software companies were by far the most likely to predict layoffs in the next year, and 66 and 65% respectively. Meanwhile, information, retail, finance, insurance companies will likely see some employment turmoil, as well as 44% of information and retail companies and 38% of finance companies saying layoffs are anticipated. They say a performance-based approach to layoffs is what 62% of companies say they'll take, while 17% say they use last in, first out. So last in, first out is going to be Gen Z, the millennials. Well, you've been here the least amount of time, you're out. That's going to affect her. I guess it matters who you vote for. Number 2, They say the ones that are performance-based, who is giving the least to the bottom line of the company? That's going to be marketing. That's going to be HR. That's going to be the DEI. That's going to be all the well-to-dos that were going up in showing off those TikTok videos where they were like, I'm basically doing nothing and getting free food all day. You're out. And why are they out? Because you wanted all the free programs. You wanted all the people to come here and get freebies. You wanted checks during the time that government laid everybody off and shut everything down. Well, here, get the bell tolls for thee. AI layoffs arriving soon. If your job can be easily replaced by current AI technology, though, it may be time to worry. Nearly 4 in 10 business leaders said layoffs are happening to replace workers with AI. Because AI continues to be a reason for layoffs, take time to learn how to leverage AI in your position. Okay, learn to code, in other words. Better learn to code. But ironically, even though they say that construction's taking time off, I'll tell you right now, and again, I've said this before, I got my little house over here I'm getting built. Can't get concrete pourers. Can't get electricians. Can't get roofers. Can't get people to come stain the thing. I can't get anybody to come do any work. And so it's costing me a lot more than initially anticipated. And when I mean a lot more, I mean like a lot more. And it's taken way longer to finish because you can't get anybody to do it. So even though large construction companies maybe, look, the small businesses are still screaming for good labor. That's why I say if you want to be a finished carpenter or electrician or a plumber or something and work for a local company, things are always going to need repair. Things are always going to need to be rebuilt. That's why I think it's a good vocation. That's probably what I would get back into. But you get the idea. You get the idea. There's nothing in life for free. You get no freebies, no handouts. So here we are. All that money printing, all the screaming and wanting to give away all the programs and do all the things. Okay, well, the checks now due, and they're going to blame you. They're going to blame the boomers and the Gen Xers and probably the millennials at some point. They'll blame conservatives or the right or the libertarians or anarcho-capitalists. They're going to blame everybody but who's actually responsible. Women voting overwhelmingly with compassion and love, the government, and taxes. That's really what's going to tear it all down. Guys, again, if you're this far into the video, join us on betterbachelor.locals.com. A great crew of guys over there. We do movie nights. We do football nights. We're now probably going to start doing some MMOs and some other gaming stuff together. We've got a voice server called Gilded, which is a voice and chat server where you can keep in touch with and play games and hang out and just shoot the breeze with like-minded dudes. All that stuff is available over to supporters over at betterbachelor.locals.com. So come on over, check it out, become a supporter today. I'd appreciate it. And for the rest of you, we'll see you in the next one. And we'll see you in the next one.